Good morning, everyone. My name's Dodge. I'm an alcoholic. Wendy asked me to share on Friday, and it took me till Sunday evening or Monday morning, I think, to say yes. But I had some things I had to look at before making a commitment, because one of the things that I do today is when I make a commitment, I follow through, and that's definitely a change of behavior. So I was thinking back on what I was going to share about on Friday, and I thought, 8 years is, for me, is a considerable amount of time, considering how long I've been on the earth. But there's been ups and downs in my recovery, and my life is not what it was when I first came in, what it is today. A little bit of my history. I was born in South Africa. My father's was Cypriot. My mother's Mauritian. My father passed away when I was 3 years old. He was an alcoholic like me, and I don't remember, but my mom told me when I got sober that she used to take me and wrap me in a blanket and go into the bush with me, because my dad would come home and break the whole house down and threaten to kill her. And but it's not really part of my story because I don't remember it. But that's sort of my lineage of where I come from. My grandfather died of cirrhosis of the liver. And my grandfather, before that, shot himself at 36. So I have like this lineage of alcoholics in my family. My mom remarried a man which adopted myself and my sister. And I had a fantastic relationship, and I still have an absolutely amazing relationship with him. He's my business partner. We talk about everything, and we've become really good friends over the last couple of years. But there's a respect and a mutual understanding between the two of us that has developed over the past 8 years that I've been in recovery. And it's just an amazing thing for me that someone that I put through so much will hold me in such high regard today. It's really incredible. So yeah, I was a dysfunctional kid, dysfunction from the beginning. I never fitted in at school. I didn't like school. I found it extremely challenging, so I didn't put in much of an effort. And I flitted from one school to another school right up until I was a teenager. And then my parents decided to pull me out of school, and I was homeschooled. And when I was homeschooled, that's when the problem started for me. The problem was always there, but that's when I had the freedom to start to do what I wanted to do more. And so I did. And I started hanging around people that are much older than me, and I was exposed to things that perhaps I shouldn't have been at such a young age. But I sorted out. I'm not blaming anyone here. It's just, I was very bored with life, and I was very lost, and I was just looking for an outlet. And I found a group of people that accepted me, and so it was just like natural progression for me. And I started experimenting with different substances and alcohol from a young age. But I was a kid, and it was just it means to growing up, and I grew up on the South Coast, and it was just like, it was part of life. It was wake up, go to the beach, get drunk, get high. It didn't really matter. It was just part of what we did, and it was fine for a long time. I was never right though. I never felt right. I was always seeking. I was always looking. And I always say I suffer from the disease of more. It's not that I wanted to get more drunk or more high. It's just that I was restless inside myself. So I started to do my first geographicals. I went to the Free State and started working on some family businesses up there. And I got into my first serious relationship, which was, I believe, nothing will bring you to your knees like a broken relationship. It was the catalyst for an acceleration for my drinking, because I went through a whole turmoil of rejection, and I blamed everyone for my problems, including my dead father and my mother, and it's pathetic, but anyway, the whole everyone else's fault. And I just started drinking a lot more than what I used to drink, and it changed then. The drinking for me wasn't about fun anymore. It was about escape. And I could drink for a long period of time, and I was a binge drinker, so I wasn't an everyday drinker. I think I was incapable, because I would drink myself to stupor for a day or 2 days, and then I would try and, I'd have to come right, and then I would start all over again. And it got worse and worse as I got older. After that failed relationship and the whole breakdown I came back to the coast, and I started working as a barman, which is a fantastic job for an alcoholic. And I learned that now my drinking had started to become part of my life. It wasn't something that I did anymore as an enjoyment to watch a game of rugby. It is something that I needed to do to cope. And so, I don't know, that 2 years was very blurry for me. I can't really tell you a lot about what happened. I was drinking a lot, obviously, and I met a new group of friends, and it was the pub scene every day. And when I wasn't working in the pub, I was drinking at the pub. And at this stage, my family here had started to obviously now get worried and upset. And I couldn't understand why I was doing what I was doing, but at the same time, I was getting something out of what I was doing. It was like a vicious cycle, It was like a means to an end for me. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I was lost. I was alone. I was lost. There was lots of people trying to help me, but I wasn't interested. So I got myself into some serious trouble down here, where I crashed cars and ended up in jail, and I had to go to court. And I found a way to get out of it was to go and see a psychiatrist. So I went to see a psychiatrist, and this is only my experience. It might be different to everyone else's experience, but it was not a good thing, because I lied and I manipulated. And the only reason why I wanted is to get the psychiatrist to write me a letter to say that I had issues, which she gladly did. And I left with 3 packets of medication and 2 mental disorders, borderline schizophrenia and bipolar. And she gave me a whole lot of pills, and I left there, and I went and I saw the prosecutor, and I was like, I've been diagnosed, and I'm here. And he looked at me and he said, you know what, I'll put your case on the top. You walk into the court and I'll ask him to withdraw the case. And that's exactly what he did. And you would think that I would have learned from that, but I didn't. Now started taking the medication, and I was drinking. I couldn't sleep at night. I was constantly sweating. I constantly had dry mouth. I was just completely out of it. So I went back to a GP, which prescribed me sedatives, and then I started on this, drinking, prescription drug-fueled, psychosis. I don't know. I was crazy. I would take responsibility, because I lied the whole way through all of this. I never turned around to anyone and said that I was, the reason why I'm so anxious is because I'm drinking and mixing both legal prescription medication and, illegal narcotics, and adding alcohol on top of that. So everyone was lost. No one knew what to do with me, and I didn't know what to do with myself, to be honest. I was extremely lost. And I did want to, by that stage, stop and get some sort of control over my life, and I decided that I'm going to stop drinking. So I suppose I had very good intentions, and I stopped. When I stopped drinking, it was a very bad thing. And then I realized that the alcohol is not my problem, that I am the problem, and that the alcohol is my solution, and that I had this sick relationship with alcohol, and I was basically in bondage, and that I needed alcohol in my life in order to make things easier for me. And so I started drinking again, and I did this like a bad relationship with alcohol at that stage. I can't live with you, can't live without you kind of thing. And so I went on this roller coaster for a long time of trying to understand why, and I crashed more cars, and I got into more trouble, and my family basically eventually just put their hands up and said to me, you've got to leave. And I didn't have anywhere to go. But at that stage, I got into a relationship, so I moved in with this girl. It was not a girl, it was a woman, and did not tolerate my behavior at all. And so that just was an amazing relationship when I was sober and when I was trying to sort my life out. It was just a terrible relationship when I was inactive and I was drinking and carrying on like that. So I mean, today we're married. It's a long time since all of that. I'm just going back on my story. And so that relationship ended back then, and I wanted to come home, and I couldn't come home, and I was completely out of it. So I went on a drinking, fueled spree, and I mixed medication with it, and I woke up on the floor in the kitchen, and there was this note there saying that, you need to leave, and I'm going to Richards Bay, which I found out a while ago was a lie. She went up the road to a bed and breakfast. But she said, I want you to leave the house, and if I come back, I'm going to have you arrested, and the whole thing. So I had no one to phone. I phoned my mom. My mom said, I'm not interested. I don't want to hear your story. So I phoned my dad, and he was like, you can come back for 1 month. But I swear to God, if you drink or anything, I'm going to take all your shit, I'm going to throw it on the road, and I'm going to have you arrested. So I was like, okay, no, cool. My mom didn't really speak to me. I came back to the house. And in that time, there was a guy that spoke to me about AA. And he's in the rooms today. And when I saw this guy, he was in the gym, and he looked well, and he looked like he was a different person to when I had seen him. Because the last time I'd actually seen him was when he was standing on the side of the road in his underwear trying to sell his clothes. So, and then I saw him healthy and well, and I mean, he tried to convince me, tried to carry the message. And at that stage, and I still didn't believe I was an alcoholic, so I had to go through more pain before I was ready. But when I was ready, the first person I phoned was him. So when I was lying on the floor, I thought I had a stroke or something because I couldn't move, but I had taken so many tranquilizers that I shut my nervous system down. I managed to get to a phone, and I phoned him, and he gave me a name of somebody else, which eventually became my sponsor. But he came and he took me to my first meeting, and I hated it. I didn't want to be there. I couldn't believe it had come to this, but I was in such a mess, and I just wanted to, I wanted to be safe, and home was always safe. So, my parents said to me, no problem, come back in, but you got to do these meetings. You've got to sort your shit out. But there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that I didn't know about. My sponsor was talking to my mom and dad, explaining to them where I was coming from, that he was the same as me, and that he will be able to help, and if I'm willing to do what I need to do. So it was good. It was divine intervention as far as I'm concerned. But between the strong sponsorship that I had and being in this town, it really, really helped me. I didn't go to treatment. But I always share about that it was like treatment because I had extremely strict parents, and so my life was about going to work, coming home, go to train at the gym, and then go to my sponsor's house, do step work, and then come home, and then go to a meeting, and then come home. And I didn't have house keys. I had to be home like a baby. I had to be home at a certain time. And I was 27 years old, and this is what was going on. So I did that, and I did my steps. I did the green and gold, and after a year, I got back with Ria, which is now my wife, and a year later, I got engaged, and then I got married, and my life just accelerated beyond comprehension for someone of where I'd come from. I had a lot of success very quickly. That's my story. I just flourished. I became a regional manager of a massive administration company in KZN. I moved to Umhlanga. I started a meeting down in Umhlanga. I was very involved in the fellowship, and my life was like a dream. I couldn't actually believe that this was my life. It was a fantastic time for me. But like everything in life, this too shall pass. And I started then with my challenges, sober, trying to deal with life on life's terms. My wife was diagnosed with a disease called Meniere's disease, which basically incapacitated her. She couldn't do anything for a year. She had chronic vertigo attacks. She lost a lot of her hearing. I lived in and out of hospitals and talking to specialists and, sitting on the internet trying to understand what was going on with her. And at the same time, I was studying and running this branch for this company. And it was an extremely difficult time for me because, I think my recovery in the beginning was very pink. It was very cloud. It was very fresh. It was very new. I'd been drinking and using from the age of 13. So, throughout my young adolescence, right up until 27, I didn't really have a lot of experience of having a clear head. I was 28, 29. Yeah, I was like 29. I was extremely fit. I was very focused, and things were just going extremely well. And then all of a sudden, I had this to deal with. At that stage, my wife was pregnant. She had a miscarriage. We found out after that it would be very dangerous for her to have kids. So we never ended up having children. That was something I had to accept. I lost my grandmother, which I was very close to. She died. It was just a whole lot of things that started to happen for me. And it's what it did is it made me realize again that my fears and my anxieties and how I need to live my life is I have to be able to put my own stuff aside and do what I have to do to stay sober. And some days for me, in those times, just staying sober for today was good enough for me. I've never been those one, and I never will be. I'm never one of those people that is an extremely social person. I'm not all, in your face. I'm not like that. And my recovery hasn't been like that. I'm not happy all the time. Sometimes I hate doing what I have to do. Sometimes I don't do what I have to do, and then I suffer because of that. And that's something I want to talk about. What I learned about myself in the last 2 years. This year started off. This year, I left that company that I was with, and I went on my own, and I made a lot of business decisions in the beginning of the year, which was extremely anxious, caused a lot of anxiety for me. One of those people that I always like to grow, and I don't like getting comfortable for too long. It's strange. I just am like that. I'd rather be fearful and worried and see myself moving forward than stay in a safe place, because that makes me even more anxious and worried. So I like to try different things, and I have been reasonably successful in that sphere of my life. But it has had consequences for the other parts of my life. I wasn't spending a lot of time with my wife. I was working all the time. I was traveling a lot, and trying to stay with a level head, with my recovery head, and now having this business and doing things that I haven't done before. Again, it's the fear, it's the lack of control, it's the what ifs and what's going to happen. And that for me this year has been a major thing, is to have the relationship that I had with God when I first came in, and to establish that relationship with God again. This year for me has been the major growth period in my life, because for some reason my brain or my disease tells me that my life is somewhat different today than what it was when I first came in. Now that's true in a lot of ways, but it's not any. God hasn't changed in any way. It's my relationship with God that has changed. Because I've never had so much responsibility and so much control. I've battled to establish where does my will and God's will come in and come out. How much effort do I have to put in and then let it go? So I'd get home at 6 o'clock and I would be on a Skype meeting with somebody, and then I'd get off that. And then I would sit thinking for 2-3 hours, how am I going to solve this by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning? And it is extremely unhealthy to do. So I've had to learn balance. I think anyone here in this room that's an alcoholic of my type understands that balance is the key, and we certainly do lack it. And I am an all or nothing type of person. So when I started to achieve, I grabbed onto it and I put, I'm saying I put too much into it, but I put too much emotion into it. So when things didn't work out the way I wanted it to, or when I had to do something in 24 hours time, in other words, I had to be in a board meeting or I had to prepare for something, it became like my main priority. It became my main focus because because of the life that I have today, I didn't want to lose it at any cost. So it became my main drive and my main focus. And because of that, my recovery started to not be my main focus point. And at no point did I ever think about drinking or picking up, because thank God that obsession has been lifted at the moment. But what it did do is it made me extremely uncomfortable, anxious, discontent, and when I'm like that, I become unmanageable, aggressive. I don't sleep well. I can't do the things like I enjoy doing. I'm not there mentally. So going for a walk on the beach, I used to be able to be actually walking on the beach. But if I'm walking on the beach and I'm thinking about what I have to do on Monday, then I'm not at the beach, And you can only take that for so long. It's like taking a spring and just, compressing it and compressing it and compressing it. And eventually what happens is parts of your life start to fall apart. And, here I am, 7.5 years down the line in my recovery, and I'm not thinking about relapsing, but, I'm thinking about running away. And I'm thinking about it's my wife's fault. I'm thinking about, I shouldn't have done this. I'm thinking about all these things, and it's all a load of crap. What it is it's me taking things too seriously and not doing what I need to do to stay sober and to live the best quality of life that I can. Now, for me, the sobriety is one aspect of what the program offers. But it's a serenity and peace is what I'm after. That for me is the main thing. When the monkey is off my back, when I can, no matter what's going on around me, I feel centered, I feel calm, I feel focused, then I know that I'm in the right place. So that this year for me has been a fantastic. I was speaking to someone early this morning, it's in the rooms, and she was saying to me, nothing will provide you with growth like pain, So a lot of people coming in will think that the relapse or the drinking is the ultimate failure, and that's it. And a lot of people use it as a reason not to come back. But I have failed miserably in the rooms. I've had behavioral issues. I have lost my temper. I've thrown things, I've shouted, I've screamed, I have been irrational. But through all of that, I know where the solution lies, and the solution lies here. The solution lies in the 12 steps. And it's something that I pursue because no matter how much I fail, I can remember a time where it was what I felt, was that, when I was sober for about 1.5 years, and my whole life started to come back together, and people that didn't talk to me are now talking to me and asking. My sister asked me to be a godfather to both her kids, and just the relationships that I've had, that have developed, the things, the experiences that I've had, the miracles that I've had in my recovery. I know they can only come from a power greater than me, and that is when I choose to be plugged in. But it is difficult when you have a lot of things going on in your life to try and stay centered. It was very easy for me in the beginning because I didn't have a very complicated life. It was, wake up in the morning, I went to work, I came back at 3 o'clock, I went to my sponsor's house, I did step work, I came back, my mom cooked the food, I ate the food, the washing was taken care of, and now all of a sudden you start living life. I buy a house, I got a wife, I've got the stuff, I've got, and the more stuff, I've got 2 dogs, the more stuff you get, the more complicated your life gets. And I take life personally, it's like I was speaking to another person, life is not just, it's not happening to you, life is just happening. And I battle with that kind of stuff. It's when something goes wrong, I automatically think, or I assume it's gone wrong. I automatically think that it's something that I've done. You know, sometimes it is, but a lot of the times these days, it's actually completely out of my hands. And it's been difficult. You know, like I arrived at the airport, and I got a meeting, and the plane is delayed. And I'm having a complete freak out because I've got all these people coming, and I've got to be there on a certain time, and I forgot the time when I was like on the phone to my dad begging him to please take me back because I didn't have a house to stay in. Now I'm freaking out about something that is absolutely out of my hands, but I don't want to let the people down, and we've been trying to organize this meeting for a whole month, and but instead of like just phoning everyone and telling them the plane is delayed, I'm sure they'll understand, or they'll something else. I sit in the mess, and I'm worried about how I'm going to get this right, and then if this certain person doesn't make it that I need them to be there, then what's going to happen? And I've been waiting 2 months to see them, and then I'm probably going to have to wait another 2 months to see them. It's absolute craziness. That's what ends up happening. And while that's going on, I've still got other stuff that's happening. Then your wife phones you and says, she's been in a car accident, and you're sitting at the airport, and then you're like, now what do I do? It's stuff like it's stuff like that I battle with. And other people just, I don't know what they do, but it looks like they just take it in their stride, So yeah, powerlessness has been something that I've learned. And that it's still okay to pursue your dreams and goals, but not at the cost of your sanity or your recovery, and not at the cost of the people around you. Because as quick as it comes, as quick as it can go. And it's been an awesome experience for me, but it's like, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm ready now. I'm ready to surrender again, and I'm ready to let go again. And it takes me time to process what's going on, like even no matter what it is. If someone, like when my wife phoned me told me she was in an accident, automatically I was very, very, very concerned and very freaked out and very, very worried. And much as she's telling me she's okay, I can't even hear that. My brain is thinking what's going to happen. But I've learned now that it takes a certain amount of commitment to put your own personality aside, your own character defects aside, and to actually work a program in the real world, which is extremely difficult because the rest of the world does not care about your program, about the fact that you need to do this in order to stay focused, and you need to make sure you go to enough meetings, and they don't. So you've got to take responsibility for yourself. There's no one out there. If you disconnect and you're not part of it, if you're not getting that spiritual fix, if you're not getting that spiritual feed that you need from the rooms, no one's going to do it for you. You'll eventually, that light will just fade and fade and fade, and eventually it will go out, and that will be the end. And eventually you will relapse. But it's not that I'm concerned about. It's the pain for 6 months or 8 months that you go through. It's like watching a small dog just die. It's like you just see the complete disconnection, and it's a horrible, horrible thing for anyone to go through. I can guarantee you that. But through everything, I still went to my meetings. I started speaking to another person in the rooms that's become more of a sponsor now. I've kept my relationships with the people in my past that were crucial in my early recovery. And I've also started speaking to someone that has a completely different objective of who I am. More of a professional type of person that's helped me to deal with my emotions, because for me, my emotions are a major problem in my life. And it is about surrender, it is about letting go, but I'm learning more about how I actually respond to things that happen around me. And that I'm extremely sensitive to things that happen around me, and that I need to learn how to deal with that sensitivity better. But throughout this whole time this year, and me leading up to my 8 years, I've realized that in order to stay here, you have to carry on putting in the work no matter what. And the more you want out of it, the more you have to work. And it's very difficult because the more things are not going well, the less you want to work at it. And so it's like this opposite polling effect where it just, you should be doing more, but because of what's going on, you're not putting in the effort, you're not doing more, and then life happens. It's really confusing. Yeah, but you know what? It's been interesting. I'm glad that I had the experience, but I don't want to go through it again. I'm very excited about the future. If I think about what I've been blessed with in this time that I've been sober, I can only just imagine what's going to happen in however long I'm still on this planet. And I've learned not to take things so seriously. I've learned not to take myself so seriously. That to play the game of life, which is something that takes some involvement, and that I don't have to put so much emotion behind everything that I do. I think a lot of it's got to do with my genetics. That Mediterranean blood that I have. It's I think sometimes it's a curse. And and I think everything is done with extreme drive and extreme passion, and maybe that can also be quite detrimental to someone in recovery. But yeah, it's been a great experience, and I'm very, very grateful to be here. And we should all carry on doing what we have to do, because we need the presence of a higher power. We need the grace of God, and we're only going to find it here amongst ourselves and the program, the 12 steps. And so, yeah, thank you very, very much. Thanks.